World War II reshaped Europe through conflict on an unprecedented scale. While countless skirmishes and engagements occurred, certain battles stood out as decisive moments that determined the trajectory of the war. From the lightning-fast invasions of Poland to the climactic fall of Berlin, these engagements involved not only immense human courage and sacrifice, but also innovative strategies, technological advancements, and critical leadership decisions. The European theatre was a stage for tactical brilliance and strategic missteps. Germany's early Blitzkrieg campaigns overran nations in weeks, demonstrating the devastating power of coordinated mechanized and aerial warfare. In response, the Allies adapted, employing coordinated defences, counteroffensives, and large-scale amphibious operations that gradually shifted the momentum. This video examines the 10 most critical battles in Europe, analysing the strategies employed by both Axis and Allied forces, the execution of those plans, and the impact each battle had on the ultimate outcome of the war. By exploring these engagements, we gain insight into how military decisions, leadership, and resilience shaped the fate of Europe and influenced the world's history for generations to come. The invasion of Poland on September 1, 1939, marked the official start of World War II in Europe. Germany unleashed its revolutionary Blitzkrieg tactics, combining fast-moving panzer divisions, mechanized infantry, and overwhelming aerial bombardments to strike quickly and decisively. This approach aimed to paralyze Polish defences before they could mount an effective counterattack. Poland's forces, while determined, relied largely on static defensive positions and outdated equipment. Despite courageous resistance, they were unable to withstand the speed and coordination of the German assault. Within weeks, German forces had seized key cities, and the country was soon divided between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union under the terms of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. The fall of Poland demonstrated the devastating effectiveness of Blitzkrieg, signalling a new era of mechanized warfare. It exposed the failures of appeasement policies in Europe and alerted the world to the scale of the conflict to come. More than a military victory, the battle had profound political consequences, prompting Britain and France to declare war on Germany, setting the stage for a continental struggle that would engulf Europe. In May 1940, Germany launched its invasion of France in the Low Countries, bypassing the heavily fortified Maginot Line through the dense Ardennes forest. This manoeuvre showcased the devastating effectiveness of Blitzkrieg, allowing German forces to encircle Allied divisions near Dunkirk and strike deep into French territory before reinforcements could respond. The French military, heavily reliant on static defences like the Maginot Line, was unprepared for the speed and coordination of the German assault. British forces, supporting their French allies, were forced into a desperate evacuation at Dunkirk, successfully saving over 338,000 troops but leaving much of their equipment behind. Within just 6 weeks, France capitulated. The collapse left Britain as the sole remaining Allied power in Western Europe, setting the stage for the Battle of Britain and forcing Germany to consolidate its hold over Western Europe. Strategically, the invasion demonstrated the vulnerability of static defences against mobile, combined arms operations, and emphasised the need for flexibility, coordination, and rapid response in modern warfare. The Battle of France reshaped the European balance of power, emboldened German ambitions, and highlighted the critical role of speed, surprise, and leadership in determining the outcomes of early World War II engagements. The Battle of Britain was the first major campaign fought entirely in the air and marked a turning point in World War II. After the rapid fall of France, Hitler sought to force Britain into submission through a massive Luftwaffe campaign, targeting Royal Air Force, RAF bases, radar installations, and key cities. The ultimate goal was to achieve air superiority as a precursor to Operation Sea Lion, Germany's planned invasion of Britain. British forces relied on innovative radar technology, decentralised command, and superior fighter aircraft like the Spitfire and Hurricane to counter the German attacks. Despite being outnumbered, the RAF's ability to rapidly detect incoming raids and respond with coordinated fighter deployments proved decisive. Civilian populations also played a role, enduring relentless bombing while maintaining morale and industrial production. By October 1940, the Luftwaffe had failed to gain air superiority. The battle forced Hitler to postpone and eventually cancel Operation Sea Lion, leaving Britain as a critical base for future Allied offensives in Europe. The resilience and strategy demonstrated during the Battle of Britain not only preserved a crucial foothold for the Allies, but also highlighted the limitations of German air power, the effectiveness of emerging technology, and the importance of coordination, training, and national morale in modern warfare. Operation Barbarossa, launched in June 1941, was Hitler's ambitious invasion of the Soviet Union, the largest military operation in history at that point. Germany aimed to seize Moscow, Leningrad, and the oil-rich Caucasus, expecting a swift victory that would knock the Soviet Union out of the war. The strategy relied on Blitzkrieg tactics, with fast-moving panzer divisions, mechanized infantry, and air support working in coordination to overwhelm Soviet forces before they could consolidate. The Soviets, however, implemented a defense-in-depth strategy combined with scorched earth policies, destroying infrastructure and resources as they retreated to deny Germany sustenance and logistical support. Despite initial territorial gains, German forces were slowed by the vastness of the Soviet territory, overextended supply lines, and the harsh Russian winter. By December, the German advance had stalled on the approaches to Moscow. The failure to achieve a rapid victory meant Germany was now fighting a prolonged two-front war, facing a resilient Soviet military that would regroup and launch counteroffensives in the coming years. Operation Barbarossa not only highlighted the limitations of Blitzkrieg over vast distances and against determined resistance, but also marked a strategic turning point in the European theatre, setting the stage for major Soviet advances that would eventually push German forces back toward Berlin. The Battle of Stalingrad stands as one of the most brutal and pivotal engagements of World War II. Fought over the industrial city of Stalingrad, control of which was critical for access to the Caucasus oil fields, the battle became both a strategic and symbolic struggle. Hitler was determined to capture the city to secure vital resources and break Soviet morale, while Stalin committed to defending it at all costs. The Germans employed intensive urban combat and aerial bombardment to seize key parts of the city, aiming to cut off Soviet reinforcement routes. The Soviets, however, used a defense-in-depth strategy, fortifying buildings and streets and drawing German troops into costly close-quarter fighting. In a masterstroke, the Soviets launched Operation Uranus, encircling the German Sixth Army and cutting off their supplies. The outcome was devastating for Germany. The Sixth Army was annihilated, and the Soviets regained momentum on the Eastern Front. Stalingrad marked the first major decisive defeat for Hitler's army, signalling a shift in the war's momentum. From this point forward, Soviet forces began a relentless westward advance, reclaiming occupied territory and turning the tide against the Axis powers in Europe. The battle highlighted the importance of resilience, intelligence, and strategic encirclement in modern warfare, as well as the human cost of total war. The Battle of El Alamein in North Africa was a crucial engagement for control of the Suez Canal and access to Middle Eastern oil, resources vital for both Axis and Allied operations. The German Afrika Korps, led by Erwin Rommel, attempted a breakthrough to advance into Egypt and secure strategic dominance. Opposing them, the British Eighth Army under Bernard Montgomery prepared meticulous defensive positions, reinforced artillery, and coordinated a counteroffensive designed to halt and reverse the Axis advance. Montgomery's strategy emphasized careful planning, logistical preparation, and concentrated firepower. By combining artillery barrages with infantry advances and armoured assaults, the Allies were able to break through the German lines. Rommel's forces, despite their tactical skill and previous successes, were unable to withstand the coordinated offensive and were forced into a full retreat across North Africa, culminating in Axis surrender in 1943. The victory at El Alamein marked a turning point in the Mediterranean theatre, boosting Allied morale and demonstrating the critical importance of logistics, preparation, and intelligence in large-scale desert warfare. It also paved the way for subsequent operations, including the Allied invasions of Sicily and Italy, and ultimately contributed to the weakening of Axis control in Europe. The D-Day invasion, also known as the Battle of Normandy, was the largest amphibious operation in history and a turning point in the Western European theatre. Codenamed Operation Overlord, it aimed to liberate France from German occupation and open a new front against the Axis powers. The Allies meticulously planned the invasion, coordinating amphibious assaults, airborne landings and diversionary operations across 5 beaches: Sword, Juno, Gold, Omaha, and Utah. German defences along the Atlantic Wall were formidable, with fortifications, minefields, and entrenched troops prepared to repel any landing. Despite this, the Allies leveraged intelligence, deception operations, and overwhelming material superiority to establish a foothold on the French coast. Paratroopers dropped behind enemy lines to secure key positions, while naval bombardments and airstrikes softened defences, allowing infantry and armoured units to advance inland. By August 1944, the Allies had liberated Paris and forced German forces into a sustained retreat. The battle demonstrated the importance of coordination, multinational cooperation, and planning in large-scale operations. Normandy marked the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany in Western Europe, providing a crucial base for further advances into German territory and highlighting the value of combined arms strategy in modern warfare. Operation Market Garden was an ambitious Allied plan designed to accelerate the end of the war in Europe by capturing key bridges in the Netherlands. The objective was to secure a rapid advance into Germany via Arnhem, bypassing the heavily defended Siegfried Line and opening a direct route to the Ruhr industrial region. The operation combined airborne assaults to seize bridges with ground-armoured units to push the front forward. Despite careful planning, the operation faced significant challenges. German forces mounted determined resistance, exploiting Allied logistical shortcomings and communication difficulties. The paratroopers encountered stronger than expected opposition at Arnhem, while armoured units struggled to reach their objectives in time. Ultimately, Operation Market Garden failed to achieve its primary goals, delaying the Allied push into Germany. However, the operation provided valuable lessons in the complexity of large-scale, multi-pronged offensives and highlighted the dangers of overextension, reliance on rapid advancement, and underestimating enemy capabilities. Even in failure, Market Garden reinforced the importance of coordination, intelligence, and contingency planning in modern warfare. The Battle of the Bulge was Germany's last major offensive on the Western Front, launched in December 1944 in the Ardennes forest. The objective was to split Allied forces, capture key ports, and slow the Allied advance into Germany, potentially forcing a negotiated peace. Taking advantage of dense forests and winter conditions, German forces achieved initial surprise, creating a pronounced bulge in the Allied front lines. The Allies, however, responded with remarkable resilience. Reinforcements were rapidly deployed, and defensive positions, most notably at Bastogne, where American forces held out under siege conditions, proved critical. Once weather conditions improved, Allied air power targeted German supply lines and troop movements, further eroding the offensive. By January 1945, the Allies had regained the initiative, forcing German troops to retreat. The failure of the offensive depleted Germany's remaining reserves and left it unable to mount any further significant operations in the west. The Battle of the Bulge cemented Allied dominance, demonstrating the importance of rapid reinforcement, strategic reserves, and the effective integration of air and ground operations in modern warfare. The Battle of Berlin was the final major engagement of the European theatre in World War II, marking the collapse of Nazi Germany. In April 1945, the Soviet Red Army launched massive offensives aimed at capturing the German capital. With overwhelming artillery, tanks, and manpower, they encircled the city, cutting off supply lines and isolating German defenders. German forces, under a desperate and increasingly fragmented command, mounted a last-ditch defence with remaining troops and hastily mobilised conscripts. Hitler's refusal to surrender compounded the chaos, resulting in intense urban combat characterised by high casualties and widespread destruction. Soviet forces systematically advanced through the city, capturing key positions street by street. By early May, Berlin had fallen, and Hitler committed suicide, effectively signalling the unconditional surrender of Germany. The battle ended the European conflict of World War II and laid the groundwork for post-war Europe, including the division of Germany and the geopolitical tensions that would spark the Cold War. The Battle of Berlin demonstrated the devastating effectiveness of coordinated multi-front offensives, superior numbers, and relentless strategy, closing a chapter of unprecedented destruction and marking a decisive moment in 20th century history. The 10 battles explored in this video collectively defined the European theatre of World War II. From the lightning strikes of Poland and France, through the resilient defence of Britain, to the monumental struggles at Stalingrad and Normandy, each engagement shaped the trajectory of the war and determined the balance of power. These battles demonstrate how strategy, leadership, logistics, and innovation influenced the outcomes, often with consequences that extended far beyond the battlefield. Early Axis successes relied on speed, surprise, and aggressive offensives, such as Blitzkrieg and rapid territorial expansion. Yet these approaches were eventually countered by resilient defences, careful planning, and coordinated counter-offensives by the Allies. Strategic innovation, from radar and intelligence breakthroughs to amphibious assaults and mechanised operations, enabled the Allies to regain the initiative and push Axis forces back across Europe. The lessons of these engagements are manifold. They underscore the importance of adaptability, coalition warfare, and meticulous preparation in modern military strategy. Each battle, whether a decisive victory like El Alamein or a failed operation like Market Garden, offered insights into both the potential and limitations of leadership, planning, and logistics under extreme conditions. Ultimately, these 10 battles did more than shape the outcome of a war. They reshaped the political, social, and geographic landscape of Europe, influenced global geopolitics, and provided enduring lessons in strategy, resilience, and the human cost of total war. For historians, military strategists, and students of history, studying these engagements remains critical to understanding not just World War II, but the dynamics of warfare and leadership in any era.